going to make crackers, spelt crackers. And what I'm going to do is show you what ingredients you need first, and then we will show how to make them. You're going to need spelt, and you can get that in whole grain form, just like this, and you can mill it. I don't know if they sell it already ground in the store. They might, but milling it is the best option. You have nice spelt flour. And then you're going to need cheese and spinach. These are just, crackers are so versatile. You can add just about anything to cracker dough. Any kind of spice, any kind of cheese or fresh vegetables. Make sure that you chop it really well. So in these, I'm going to just add spinach, and this is shaved right now, but I'm going to chop it all up and get it nice and small, and then crushed red pepper, very yummy. And then you need oil and half and half. So olive oil, half and half. Very simple. Salt and pepper. Do not forget the salt in your crackers. They won't taste very good. They'll just be bland. And we're not going to add a lot of oil to the crackers because you don't want them too soft. So if you add too much oil, you're going to get a too soft of a cracker, and they won't be very crunchy. You can also add thyme, onion powder. You know, you can just, it's a very, you know, forgiving kind of recipe. And you'll need, yeah, no water in this. Yeah, just oil and half, or cream. So let's get started. Okay, here we go. So the first thing you want to do is get your flour into your bowl. Now I'm using a Bosch mixer. You can even use a food processor if you have one, because it's just kind of like maybe pie dough. You don't want to over mix your dough. If you over mix your dough, they're gonna be tough and rubbery, and they're not gonna be tasty at all. Okay, so let's put in 2.5 cups, about 2.5 cups, yes, of spelt flour, and this is freshly ground spelt flour. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now we're gonna add all of our spices. Now I failed to mention sugar in the intro, so we're going to go ahead and add sugar, which is two tablespoons, a tablespoon and a half. In this one I have pepper and salt and onion powder, probably a teaspoon and a half. You can get the recipe. I'm going to have the recipe up on the blog. So a teaspoon and a half, and maybe a teaspoon and a half of salt and a teaspoon and a half of onion powder. So we'll do that. And then spices. So I have chives and thyme and crushed red pepper. Okay, so we have all that, and I'm just going to mix this up really quick before I put in the cheese and the spinach. And I probably want to use a lid on that. I want to make sure that you can see, but I don't want stuff going everywhere. Okay, now we're going to add the spinach and the cheese. So this is shaved Parmesan and Romano and Assaggio. And I'm just going to kind of mix that up. Now the oil, I'm only going to add, this time I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil. I had done this video for my group on Facebook and I messed it up. So that's what's taken me so long to get it back up again, because they were good, but my camera orientation was off, so you couldn't see what I was doing for one, but I think I'm going to do it better this time. They were still crunchy, but they were a little soft because of the oil. So let's see, we're going to do 1 tablespoon first. This is almost like a roux that you would make for gravy. So I'm going to kind of try and gauge that just a little bit. I'm going to add a tiny bit more and just try and get some of the flour a little bit moist with the oil, but not a lot. Okay, now we're going to add our half and half. Isn't this simple? This is like such a simple recipe. You can't go wrong, I don't think. You could always add more flour if you messed up. This is a half a cup of half and half, and I used my cracker cup, my flour cup. I'm going to start with a half, and let's just look at it. Do you see how it's coming together just a bit there? Now that was a half a cup. Now I'm going to squeeze it a little bit to see if I can roll it. So, yep, I'm going to do just a tiny bit more. Yep, tiny bit more. So that was about a half of a cup. Let's do about a fourth. Let's do a half of that. And now what I'm going to do is, as I'm pouring it, I'm going to mix a little bit, just in case a fourth would be too much. So just jog it a little bit. Take that off of there for a second, and I'm going to look at this. That forms into a dough, okay? And that is where we're going to stop. And this is perfect. So that was about a half. It was a little bit under a half, I think, at first. And then about a fourth. This is why sometimes a food processor is going to be a little bit more handier, because you can sit there and you can watch it through the glass, and just like you would watch pie dough on the side, you can tell when you've added enough liquid to it where you have to stop and take it out and kind of form it together into a ball. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, that's perfect. Let's put this into, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my hand into my bowl, and I'm just going to start squeezing it all together. Okay. Okay. All right, and so I just took it and I just kept rolling it around in the bowl until I got all of the dough into a ball. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it rest, so the flour will just continue to soak up whatever moisture is available in our little ball, so it doesn't crumble up while we're rolling it out. And you can always add a little bit more, even with your hands, if you wanted to. If you felt like, oh, okay, it's still a little bit too dry, you can put a little bit of half and half on your hands and just kind of maybe squeeze it into it a little bit. You just don't want to over knead it. So you don't want to just keep beating it, because the crackers they will be rubbery. They just won't come out very good. So while that's resting, we just want to prepare our parchment paper or whatever we're going to roll it out on. Okay, so now after you've let your dough rest, you want to cut it into maybe fourths and just work with a little bit at a time. This is what I call loaded cracker dough, because we have a lot of spices in it. We have a lot of, cheese and stuff like that. It's gonna tend to just be a little, things falling out of it. Don't worry about it. Get yourself a little roller just like this. This is my favorite pizza roller or dough roller. And just start to work at your dough until you can get it at least down to under a fourth of an inch. And it's gonna take a little bit. And again, we didn't over mix the dough, so you should be pretty good in not worrying about about it being too tough. And I have a lot of stuff in there. I mean, there's a lot of spinach and everything, so you have to, it just takes a little while to get it worked down. And keep next to you, keep a little dish of half and half with a little brush. And if you find that, okay, this part looks a little bit dry, just dab it a little bit, because remember, milk will also soften things, just like it does bread when you're making dough. It will add moisture to it, and you don't want too much. So you're just gonna keep rolling until you can get it into a nice, I'm not worried about the shape as much as how thin it is, okay? So you just want to keep working it. And then once you got it to there, you'll just, so this is pretty thin. I'd probably make it a little bit thinner. I don't know, let's see, maybe. Oh yeah. So once it sits for a minute, and sometimes the half and half, you know, just kind of brushing it, just a little brush of liquid, and then let it sit for a few minutes will help it roll even thinner. Okay. And if you rip a little hole in it, just like dough. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. So now what you want to do is just, you know, of course, use your pizza cutter and start cutting your squares. Oh, they probably won't be. You can even use cookie cutters if you have little tiny ones. Cut off the edges to make them look neat. Try and make them, especially if it's for a party, try and get them pretty square so they're pretty. Okay, so I'll cut off those edges. You can even do that while it's on the pan. And you can reuse them. I would just leave them flat, like in a little pile, and push them back into a new cracker. You don't want to keep balling it up and then re-rolling it, because that will make them tough. And then I just take off the ones that aren't so pretty. But I try and get them nice and even, kinda, anyway. So, and then just scoop them and put them onto a cookie sheet. And I have my cookie sheet is lined with silicone. So, and that makes the best surface to cook on. You're doing cookies or whatever, that one, I think I want that one a little thinner. And this is how you do it. So pile up your cookie tray with nice square pieces of dough. And we will bake these at, let me see, we will bake these at 350, probably for about 20 minutes. So, not hard. Hi, and we're back, and they came out perfect. So they're very good. They have a lot of flavor to them. They're a little bit spicy because of the crushed red pepper, so you might want to leave stuff like that out if you have children. But I've been eating them, well, but they are perfect. And so they have a lot of stuff in them, you know, like the spinach and the cheese, and you don't have to put all of that stuff into it. And there's also another way to do this. You could roll the dough out on what you're going to bake them on and score it so you don't have to do each one individually. That's just the way I've always done it. Put them out with cheese or flavored cheese, and I hope you enjoy them. They are very good. If you've ever wanted potato chips, here's the last thing. If you've ever wanted like potato chips or just snacky food, make these instead. You will not think about junk food if you have whole grain crackers or something like that laying around. So enjoy. Thanks.